Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of weddings. I'm your host, Keith Willard. Welcome back. Today, we're going to continue our series about wedding basics, and today it is all about flowers and centerpieces. You know, it's going to be one of the first things that people ask you when you start your wedding planning is like, what kind of flowers, what kind of colors are you looking at, and where are you looking at? And so we are going to be talking about all of those things and options about, you know, some different options that you may have outside of flowers and some of the issues that we're having in the flower market right now because it's affecting everybody. So we actually have a favorite of the show, Nichole Sellars. I'll bring her on in just a second. But before I introduce her, let me introduce Marcy Gutenberg with An Affair to Remember by Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Hi, Kitty.
So I'm excited.
I know. I love Nichole. She is amazing.
She really is. And I mean, and the nice thing is that, again, she's been a part of the show many times. So I almost feel like I don't need to really introduce her, but Nichole Sellars with CLE Events and Design. I mean, seriously, I don't know of a better person that I would want to talk to about florals that's going to be a no BS kind of person to tell us what is really happening in the world of flowers. And, you know, I was looking over some of the slides that you sent over, and there's some really great things that we're going to be talking about that are options to your floral centerpieces. But so, Nichole, tell us a little bit about you and about your company.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. It's great to be back. I missed you guys. Missed being on the show. CLE Events, we are a full-service company that provides decor, florals for all kinds of events, but we certainly love weddings. We love to be different. We do a lot of custom builds. We do a lot of custom creations because we really like your event not to be cookie cutter and it to show your personality of that and your fiance. And that's really a lot of this is about that today is let's highlight who you are as a couple and not what everybody says you should do for your wedding.
Well, and you know, and I think that it needs to be said that you used to be with the casinos, the Seminole casinos, and had to build dreams, you know, these holy moly, over the top, crazy kind of designs. And so you really learned how to create something out of nothing. I mean,
yeah, we were always working with a black box and we always had to make it look completely different every time. So, and always, you know, and even though we were a casino, we had decent budgets, we did so many events that, you know, we had to make our money work really hard for us. So we were good about making things look good and within a budget.
Right. Well, and the thing is that you weren't always able to use florals for your decor. No. So, you know, I mean, I remember one event where you hung instruments and umbrellas upside down from the ceiling. And it was such a cool visual that I was like, this actually could work for like an engagement party or, you know, some type of social event that's not specifically geared towards the casino. So that's what I was like, man, there's some great options out there. So, okay, so let's start off. You know, one of the things that we seem to be having a problem with is not just, and here in South Florida, but it seems to be all over the place. I mean, we've talked to people from all over the country and all over the world. Labor is obviously a major issue right now in the wedding market. But now flowers are too.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the flower market and you know, what kind of shortages we're seeing?
So the issue, you know, just because of the pandemic, a lot of the growers fields weren't growing. They were cutting back because they didn't want to have lost product. And this goes across the board in almost all industries. And all industries are being affected by staffing shortages. There are flowers to be had. You can get your flowers. You can get your dream flowers. But you have to definitely plan in advance. You have to work with someone who has contacts to get those flowers for you, you know, that can go right to the growers. And definitely want to order as soon as you can so they can be out there looking for them. So you don't want to keep your flowers to last. I would not recommend that, you know, especially if you have very specific things in mind. One thing that there's a real scarcity of right now is white roses for whatever reason. So those are the hardest things to come by. I had to drive.
Really? I find that interesting that white roses are currently the hardest thing to get.
Well, in the past, we would be able to walk into our wholesaler and, grab stuff off the rack, so to speak,
Right.
And sometimes what people don't understand is they think we're just going in and buying like a bunch of but we typically, when we order, we have to order by the box, which
Right.
could be anywhere in quantities from 30 to 100. Like roses come in a box of 100.
Right.
If we are not ordering and we're trying to walk into a wholesaler, we're subject to whatever they have available. And they're probably not going to have any white flowers available. So you definitely need to plan ahead, especially if white is your color scheme. And you definitely need to make sure you've pre-ordered.
So that brings up an interesting process. So, you're meeting with a bride for the first time. Bride is just now starting to figure out what she wants to do for her wedding, right? What are some things that a bride needs to kind of keep in mind and already kind of have an idea about before she meets with a florist?
Well, I think it's, I like to be really collaborative with our brides because we want to bring their vision to life, not necessarily my vision to life. So it's really helpful if they at least have some basic pictures together of things they like. It doesn't have to be their exact, but if it can be a style, it can be a mood, it could be a feeling, even saying, so we get a little bit of an idea of their vibe. Right. And then, of course, it certainly helps if they have an idea of what colors they want. And normally the process is to have an initial consultation, kind of walk through their event with their event planner, discuss like where their ceremony is going to take place, how many bridesmaids and groomsmen are they having, what kind of ceremony structure, and then kind of walk through their event to kind of see what their needs are. And of course, to discuss what their budget is. Yeah. And then after we gather all that information, we then put together a pretty in-depth proposal for them with options. We take their inspiration pictures, we look at what's currently available in the market, we put together option for them at different price points so they can kind of see where they maybe want to spend their money, what's more important to them, what's less important to them. And then we will go back to them with that proposal, and then we'll go back and meet with them again and kind of fine tune things. So it isn't instantaneous. You don't typically meet with your florist once, one and done. If you do, that would be pretty lucky. But normally it takes 2 or 3 meetings to kind of fine tune everything and get it ready to go.
So what I found impressive is the fact that you actually sent us a kind of a how do I want to put this? Price sheet, like a general idea of what you would be looking at if you were, looking at starting your budget. And this is one of those things that's always super scary to kind of put out there into the world, because these aren't obviously everybody's pricing. This is a general pricing, right?
Right. This is a national average. It's not my personal pricing. And obviously, depending on where you live, these numbers could be much higher or much lower. But I would say that, these are, I kind of did a few, read research into a few different national, I think this came from Bride Magazine, but I actually found these numbers very, very accurate, at least to our market in South Florida.
Well, because when you say, okay, so bridal bouquet, you have $250, bridesmaids bouquets at $80, boutonnieres at $20, a pin on corsage $25, wrist corsage $30. And by the way, I'm reading this off so that way our podcast people understand, what we're talking about. Reception centerpieces you have at $120 to $600.
Right.
That is a pretty big variance between 120 and 600. And you're saying that that's kind of an average is going to be somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, take into consideration the blooms. Like if you want Phalaenopsis orchids, which cost $15 per bloom, those beautiful white orchids that everybody you see in a lot of wedding pictures, those are very, very expensive. $15, that's the wholesale price on top of it. And so what you also have to consider into which this pricing is it's not just the cost of the flowers. You have the cost of the vessels, whatever you're using, whether it be plant stands, vases, whatever it may be. The oasis, the lomi dishes, everything. Then the flowers don't just magically prepare themselves. We normally pick up your flowers a couple days before your event, and they all have to be processed. Meaning we have to dethorn them. We have to take the leaves off. We have to give them a fresh cut. They have to be put in water so they open up and they're beautiful for the day of your wedding, because when they come from the growers, they're bundled very, very tightly into little packets, and the buds are all closed. So they're, they have to be processed. So I think a lot of people don't understand the process of what goes into your florals, but it is a multi-day process. So not only do we spend 2 or 3 meetings just with you to get an idea of what your perfect vision would be, but then we have to process those flowers and get them to open and be beautiful. Then we put together the arrangements, then we transport, and then we set up. So you can see why flowers aren't exactly inexpensive. It's quite the process.
Different. And it's different than 1-800-Flowers, where they bring you a beautiful little bouquet and it's all done. You're like, oh, gorgeous. I mean, there was a process behind there as well. Ceremony structures you have at 1,500 to 4,000. Right. So, tell us when you mean by ceremony structure.
So obviously, everybody likes the basic arch. You have your basic, U-shaped arch, which is very popular, and you add a couple swags. Those can typically be at the lower end of the scale. An arch with, depending on the florals that you want, probably $250 to $500. You're in that kind of a price range. And arches get progressively more elaborate from there, whether you want a hexagon or triangles, or if you want a huppa that's all acrylic with flowers inside and huge toppers full of flowers. All of that adds on to the price. So it really depends on how elaborate you want to get. And a big trend nowadays is people are really decorating up their aisles too. So we're seeing a lot of mirrored aisleways that the brides are walking down on these beautiful mirrored walkways. So which is really stunning. You're seeing really elaborate flowers going down both sides of the aisle as well. So, people are deciding that they, where they want to spend their money. And some of these ceremony structures can be really over the top. I mean, look at some of the Indian weddings out there which are amazing. Oh my God, and the flowers and the structures that they use and the furniture, that's just incredible. So can be a really big variance, but it doesn't mean you can't have your look or your vision on your budget. You make sure it works for you.
Well, and then you have, and I find this interesting that you separated head table florals and sweetheart table decor. Head table florals at 1,500 and sweetheart table decor at 500. And I think it's important to tell our viewers and to our listeners, a head table is when the bride and groom is sitting with their bridal party at a long table in front of the guests. And a sweetheart table is just the bride and groom at a table of their own, a little tiny sweetheart table. And so, I understand why the florals would be dramatically different cost for either of those, but it's going to be either or, I feel.
Right. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Not too many people would do a head table, but like, for instance, the garlands that run the whole length of your table that are really popular now. And if you have say an 8-foot or a 10-foot table or a 12-foot table for all your bridal party, and you think about how long, and those garlands can run almost, depending on the type of flowers, about $100 a foot. So if you're covering a 12-foot table, that's very easy to get to $1,200. So,
and that's fresh garland, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, fresh eucalyptus garlands with fresh blooms mixed in, but even just greenery. So some people think, oh, I'm just going to do greenery because that's very chic right now, right? To do a lot of greenery with touches of flowers. And I think it's going to cost less money, but it's not necessarily so. Some of the greenery can be just as pricey, but they're different, there are always options, and your florist can always work within your budget. So, it's very important to kind of have an idea of where you want to be. And then your professional works with you to create your vision within what you can afford. We don't want anybody stressed out over the cost of their flowers.
Well, I think that being able to educate people a little bit about kind of the average cost is important, because a lot of times people walk into their florist and they have zero idea of what flowers cost. All they know is they sent somebody some cute flowers to an office once and it cost them $75. And this is a much different kind of escapade that we're going on. And just what we talked about right now, if I was a new bride, I'd be like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. What's happening?
Right.
There's a lot happening here. Okay. What do you mean? And I think that if you're a new bride, you need to hook up. That sounds weird. You need to You need to, right? And, well, you need to maybe get you a discount. Who knows? Anyway, no, but no, you need to connect with the right florist that is going to take the time to explain these things to you and educate you and not get frustrated. Because I know a few florists that get a little frustrated and then they say, well, just trust me. And I'm like, I will not just trust you. And I'm in the business. And I mean, obviously, if it was Nichole, I mean, if you have a planner that you really trust, they're not only going to give you to the right people.
That's a different story, totally.
That's a totally different story. But, if a florist says, trust me right at the beginning, I'm going to be like, well, you got to give me a reason to trust you. And then go from there. What do you feel? How do you feel about like Pinterest and those kind of things? Do you think those are a help or a hindrance?
I do. I love it, honestly. I mean, it gives me a good idea of where people want to be. And I mean, we're not going to try to copy. We're not going to try to do the exact same thing unless they want us to do that. But like, again, it's looking for a feel, a mood, and overall ambiance for, some people want to be moody and romantic. Some people want to be really like bashful and blush, so it just really depends on what they want. And I find it helpful to see their Pinterest board and to see where they're going, because it does make it easier. Helps me get inside my head better, because people have a hard time sometimes explaining it.
Well, okay, so here we are with, we've talked about the average cost of flowers, and then, so what are some of the trends that you're seeing in florals for 2021? Now that we're past the pandemic and people are getting back to having some joy and fun in their world again, are you seeing a difference in like the florals before pandemic versus florals after pandemic?
Well, I think everybody's favorite things for weddings are kind of like creams and the blushes and the pinks. And we do see more trends moving away from that. We're seeing more like original and fanciful flowers. A lot of people like the pampas grass, obviously, but a lot of now people are using things like the fresh pampas grass, which is so pretty. And it has a completely different look. It looks like feathers. It's so pretty.
Wow.
And then people are also loving like fall colors or earth tone colors, long trailing ribbons. So still the bohemian stuff is very in. Monochromatic flowers, like you can see on the right. So keeping within all the same color story, but just a variation of colors. And also these sweet bouquets are kind of coming in, where the bride doesn't want to be carrying these big, huge, heavy thing of flowers, and they want something that's more interesting and sweet.
Yeah, I see that too. And when it comes to those bouquets, I do actually see people getting away from those huge bouquets that people used to carry, that you needed to like go lift weights in order to be able to hold this all day.
Oh, those are heavy.
They are heavy. I don't think people realize how heavy flowers are until they're actually having to hold them all day, and the bride hands them over to you and they're like, can you just hold on to these for a little bit?
It's true. And the pet peeve, it drives me crazy. Ladies, when you're walking down the aisle, don't hold your flowers up, hold them down. You're supposed to hold them down. So many of them, you see them holding up, and so all you see are the stems.
Well, and you need to hold them below your boob level. And that's the thing. I always tell people, it's like, exactly. We want to see your dress. So the top petal of your arrangement should be below your boobs. That's all there is to it. That's a good place. Yeah, a good place to hold them. But definitely, they say that, getting a good picture is difficult. And that's doubly true when you're a bride walking down the aisle with a bouquet, because you have to actually tilt your wrist slightly forward.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so it feels a little unnatural.
We're all guilty. I mean, I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nobody instructed me at the time.
Right.
But, when you look back at these photos, these are there forever. You want to make sure that you're holding it in a position where you can see the flowers and your dress and hold the whole visual.
Yeah. What do you think about? I've heard that there's a rule of thumb, and I say I heard because I've been obviously with a bunch of different florists. The rule of thumb about size of bouquet is that you want it smaller than the waist of the bride.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Never? Oh, I heard that. I heard that you don't want it to cover up more of her dress, and you want her, her figure to be able to be seen. past
I
the
think
flowers.
that's a totally personal thing, because a lot of brides love those huge cascading bouquets. You know, they love them very, you know, everyone's different. Some like them really manicured, the tight ball. Some of them want them more organic and free flowing. Some want them somewhere in between. I think most brides tend to think bigger is better, but like I said, we are seeing a movement into more of like the sweet and enchanting versus and looking at more interesting material to give it that look without less weight in flowers.
So let's talk about a little bit about, you know, the shapes. Oop, where did I go? More of the shapes as far as the like ceremony.
Right. So, you know, we've kind of, in the past, I think most of our ceremony structures have all been pretty generic, and we've definitely moved away from that over time. You know, it was the typical arch, the little pergola thing, and it's getting much more artistic. You know, we're seeing more free flowing forms. We're seeing the geometric shapes have been a big fad for a few years now, but they're getting more and more creative with them. And I
like the freeform idea, you know, because when people think wedding and arch, they think of a connected upside down U shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that you don't need to have a connecting shape for your aisle gives you a little bit more artistic range.
Right,
like
exactly.
Two different pieces. Well, I like this picture that you have right here with the pampas grass. Is that pampas grass? What is that going down this aisle?
I'm not sure what that is, actually. I just pulled it out because of it was like kind of showed a different aisle type thing. It's not the clearest picture, but it's just showing basically both sides of the aisle are being decorated all the way down with long stalks. It could even be, you know, like lavender stalk or something. Or it could be pampas grass, but people are paying more attention to like their actual aisle decor, and they are getting a little bit more ornate with it. So they're not just leaving it up to the ceremony structure itself, but they're actually doing more decor down the aisle. You know, before we'd have maybe a little bouquet on certain things, or you'd have a little ribbon or a little garland, but they're getting a bit more over the top with it, it looks like.
And I like the fact that it's all the way down on either side of the aisle, and it's completely solid, meaning that idiots aren't going to walk across your aisle, because they would probably knock over a whole bunch of stuff trying to get to the other side. You know, walk around, everybody, walk around. Oh my God.
And I see you have the fairy lights in there too.
Yeah.
And then I like this last picture where you have some of the tree branches that are very plain, with no flowers on them, but it creates kind of a backdrop, an interesting backdrop with all these wildflowers around our feet.
So a lot of times with people who want things that are hot up in the air, and now it's kind of going to some of the opposite, where they're looking to be more grounded. Maybe that's reflection of the pandemic and everything. But so, and also, you know, it can be difficult to hang things depending on where you are and your venue, and hang points and ladders. So people are going to having more grounded arrangements and being a bit more innate with them, and having some higher elements to draw the eye, but giving it a completely different look.
What is your feeling about doing a runway where you have the mirror, or or you have an aisle runner with maybe mature parents? In this respect, that, you know, I mean, is there any concern for any slippage or anything like that you would think about, you know, in the process?
Yeah, I mean, these big, beautiful mirrored, like,
they're
over
gorgeous.
The top are plexiglass. My brain just says a little bit of water and there's a nightmare.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder, especially for a mature parent who may have some issues, you know, with balance or something.
Right. Well, they're not actually real mirrors. It's a wrap. It's a mirror wrap. So it on top of I'm spilling secrets here. Shush. But it's not true. It's not true mirrors that they're walking on, and
But it looks like it. I mean, it is gorgeous.
It's a trick of the eye. It's mirrored wrap on, depending on what your surface is going to be, but could be plywood, could be something, and it's joined together. It has joints with like a mirrored tape, so it just tricks the eye. It looks like a solid thing, but if you were to go up and look closely at it, you would see, oh, wait a second, I see what this is. And also with aisle runners, anything should be double taped down. That shouldn't be there without, it should be properly because we do not want people to trip. We don't want the parents
Well,
to trip, or the bride to trip, or anyone to trip.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, and especially if you have older people walking down the aisle, they're going to drag their feet a little bit. So you got to make sure that, you know, the aisle is taped down properly. I mean, I feel like that's one of the most overlooked pieces when it comes to weddings is people are like, oh, well, you know, quickly tape down the aisle or pin it, and, you know, or they pin it to the carpet. I'm like, please don't do that. Please do not do that.
A roll of double stick tape from Home Depot for about $10, and that stuff's super sticky, and it'll keep it safe for you. And
it comes in a bunch of different colors. So hello, go to Home Depot and
it's double sided, so you put it underneath. You don't even see it.
Oh, see, I was like, oh, I'll get white duct tape and fine. Well, you know, okay, and one of the things that we're really seeing is people going green, right? Reuse, centerpieces reused. I love this thing because you sent this really interesting visual of let me find it here, of non-flower edible centerpieces.
You know, centerpieces don't have to be flowers, and you can get creative with it. And then vegetables have such beautiful colors and textures, and they make incredible centerpieces. I've seen some over the top incredible centerpieces done with fruit and vegetables, and then after the event, and they do look like flowers. You see some of these cabbages and things. Add some light, you know, flowers into it, and then afterwards they were all donated to a like Feeding America or, you know, homeless shelters. So, you know, the big thing about flowers is, yes, there can be a lot of waste sometimes, you know, so this is a way to get a really beautiful look and also to be environmentally friendly and, you know, help out some people in need.
So so by the way, Brooke just joined us. Poor Brooke. Hey, hi, Brooke.
Hello, friends. How is everyone?
Oh my goodness, you poor thing. So we should tell the viewers that you're jumping on because you had to go to somebody else's house to jump in because your AC went out.
Well, here's the thing. The bar's way better here. You see the background. I'm in a better place. It just took me a minute. I'll apologize for the tardiness, but not about the eyelashes I'm not wearing. Hi, Nichole. I missed you. Thank God you were my guest today because I look like a fool as well. Marcy looked gorgeous. Keith.
Thank you.
Your jacket.
I know. I got my little floral jacket going on here.
It's my favorite.
I love it. So, you know, we're going to go back to what we're talking about because I'm going to go back to the fact that green is in, and the fact that you're using these centerpieces in a green way is just so interesting. I just find it really, really interesting.
And I see you're pairing it with a lot of the colors that are going to be coming in, those brighter, more vibrant colors from the fruits. It was just gorgeous. I mean,
the flowers, the fruit and veggies are a very creative way to bring a lot of life to your table and to show kind of like farm to table, and can be rustic, it can be elegant, it can be whimsical, and the colors are amazing. And then it doesn't go to waste afterwards.
Well, and Marcy and I did and you were part of it too, Nichole, where we did a taste of mace, and it was literally all about like how to create really over the top centerpieces using nothing but edible stuff. Right. And then afterwards they were deconstructed and donated to a food bank. It was amazing.
Yep. And that's why I was uninvited, because I would have ate everything. Okay, I'm not mad anymore.
Right? Well, this is a couple of years ago, but it really showcased like what could be done visually. I mean, because some of the stuff that these guys put together was just incredible. Using lettuce in the way that I would have never even thought about lettuce. You know,
that's really just water.
I was like, that sounded a little weird too. I'm thinking about lettuce in a new way. Jump chicky pound. No. Oh my God, that same word. All right, so let's look at I love this idea about using non-floral, non-vegetable centerpieces. I mean, you know, tell us a little bit about this.
So what do you collect? What are you and your fiance into? Do you guys have a love? Is it a love of books? You know, is it a love of vintage barware? Is it a love of cameras? Whatever you're into, music, you know, almost anything. If you have a collection, it can probably be incorporated into some kind of a centerpiece that really talks about you and your fiance and your passions that you enjoy together. I love this one on the left. This is not mine. This is event planner on the West Coast, but she did this arrangement with the books where it's actually the pages of the books like almost look like they're exploding up into the air. And it's actually probably a fairly simple thing to do, not simple, but it has simple in its mechanics, but you know, it's just literally pages out of books, going to the thrift store and buying some books and dismantling them. And I mean, but it is very artistic and beautiful, of course, but I mean, it really it's just such a different look.
Well, and I like the fact that it's using, again, I love the fact that you said, you know, they went to the, you know, Goodwill kind of store and bought a whole bunch of books and then pulled the pages out and glued them all together, and it literally looks like the pages are flying out of the books.
Yeah, the repurposing is amazing.
It really
if you have the imagination for it, I'm actually in the process of in the showroom, the beauty room, I'm actually doing with old books and cookbooks and thrift store books. I'm printing out the Coco Chanel's and the Louis Vuittons and all Christian and all that. I'm actually resurfacing those. I'm going to stack them for pennies on the dollar, so you don't have to purchase the actual book. So, I mean, if you have the imagination, you know, and Nichole is like one of my favorite people. That woman's her brain baffles
just
me.
thinks in a totally different way.
So amazing.
Just totally thinks in a different way. Well, what about this? I love the butterflies from simple to extravagant, because this is one of those things, you know, you would think, oh, butterflies. I think butterfly release, honestly. When you said, oh, I'm gonna come up with an idea, you're gonna come up with something with a butterfly. But I love that.
Major O'Hara.
I know, but I love the fact that you have a simple glass bowl with a very simple crystal, almost looking butterfly mounted on the rim of the bowl with a simple candle inside.
You know, I mean, if there's always a way to be elegant and beautiful and stay within your budget. You know, I mean, obviously even something like this though, it would cost, you know, I mean, you've got all the pieces together. So, you know, I mean, even a simple arrangement is probably going to be at least in the $50 range. And then obviously you can end up going to your thousands of dollars worth of centerpiece arrangements, but there's always a happy medium.
Well, and I like the fact that you showed, you know, a simple to really over the top kind of idea using the same butterflies. Well, not the same butterfly, but using the same kind of shape. And the middle one is just, you know, a bunch of curly willow with butterflies glued to the tips here and there. Gorgeous. Love it. And then your last photo, it looks like literally a tornado, a tornado of butterflies that culminate down to the center of the table. I almost think Yellow Brick Road a little bit, Little Wizard of Oz.
And then to the left is like what's left after the tornado. the 14 that hung on real strong.
It's true, but what I love about this is that, again, using something, so if somebody really loves butterflies, there are ways that you can incorporate that into your centerpiece, and it can be your centerpiece total in like completely in. Like there are no florals on these.
Hey, Mariah Carey, if you're listening, call Nichole. Asia, don't call Nichole.
But you know, I mean, that's always a hard thing for people to really, because when you're thinking about your wedding, and when most couples think about their wedding, they immediately think florals. Oh, I gotta have florals into it. But again, we're into a new world that people are saying, look, I really want to put my tag on this. I want it to feel like a reflection of what we love and in our day-to-day life, and bring people into our life in a unique way. Yeah, no more cookie cutter. Like I love that.
And what do we do this for? I mean, honestly.
Exactly.
Right? We got to have some
back to basics. What do we do this for?
And I do like the fact that you say not everything has to match.
Yes. I mean, I get tired of that, honestly, where everybody's so matchy, you know, just show some interest. You know, your bouquet doesn't necessarily have to be the exact thing of like your bridesmaids bouquets. You know, it could be different colors. It could be different interests. You know, your tablecloths don't all have to be the same. Your napkins don't, you know, I mean, have some fun with it. Have some fun with your colors and your textures and your different things. This was a request someone recently asked for. And it's just like some simple, inexpensive stacked cardboard suitcases with some old vintage postcards topped with an airplane. So this was an inspiration someone picture had. And so we kind of switched it up. We actually use, instead of the inexpensive like cardboard ones that you buy on Amazon, we suggested using real pieces of vintage luggage, like train cases and things, because we have a large collection of those, and vintage cameras and globes and different things. Because for the couple that say loves travel, or maybe he's a pilot and she was a flight attendant, I mean, there are different ways to speak to your romance and your love story.
What I like about that is, if you noticed that on the table, it was a vintage flight map underneath all that stuff, and that was their linen, is a vintage flight map. I mean, talk about utilizing material that you wouldn't normally think of, and I think that's one of the things. I mean, we've all gotten so used to, and we love over the top. We love BJ linens; they do an amazing job, But I think that sometimes we stop at that and go, oh, isn't this a gorgeous linen? Well, what else could we use? Especially if you're looking at trying to save a little money and you're doing this on your own. I mean,
I actually just worked a wedding, Keith, right after the one we did the following day, where they had actually, when the airplane was what made me think of it, they for their guest cards, they actually had like boarding passes and different destinations, and that's how they did the table arrangements and setup. And I was like, oh, clever, cute. Because I want you to walk inside my home and see something that you can't buy off the rack or from the store. I want it to be something that, this is why I love Nichole so much. She's so great at this. Marcy, and your craft as well. Keith, what we do, something that not everybody can go purchase and just go grab and have. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
and I think that's what sets that standard, and that's what puts us in the bars high. And I think that's where we excel, because we do think outside of the box. And like I said, I want you to walk in my home. Like, Keith, I got to buck up my ass 3 days ago. I'm like, I want everything changed. So, Nichole, I'm calling you, by the way, because what I want to do, you're really good at. And I want to go I went completely left from what I did. Because I want something that when you walk in that no one else has. So basically, I have to wow Keith when he comes over, basically.
Well, and I love the fact that on one of these centerpieces, you just have a simple, pretty lamp with some like interesting fruit around the base. And I feel like that's a luncheon.
It wasn't a wedding, but but the idea could be applied. So everybody is really mid-century modern. It's super hot. Tiki is super hot. And these people who are collectors of mid-century modern and tiki might want to have a different vibe for their wedding. So this was a luncheon, but it was a Mad Men themed luncheon. So you can see the tablecloth kind of has those retro colors in it. But for centerpieces, we actually used different mid-century modern lamps and actually barware. And each table was a little different, because obviously you're not going to find 12 exact lamps that look like this. But each one came from the same time period, kind of had the same vibe, all pulled together, and people loved it. They were just,
and I think that's important for, if you're listening to the show, I tell people all the time, go to Home Depot and walk around with the idea of what could I use to decorate with. And it is crazy what pops out at you.
All you have to do is have a great imagination, but you have to make it make sense.
Yeah,
you have to make it excels at that.
And then, of course,
all those IKEA. IKEA is great.
Oh my God, I love IKEA for this. Well, and I like this little Mad Hatter's Alice in Wonderland centerpiece that you have. It looks like you took the book idea and did it with playing cards.
Yes. So this kind of got the teapot.
I hope I win.
With the playing cards kind of exploding out of the teapot to give it some height. And these actually happen to be Alice in Wonderland playing cards, which makes it extra cute. But Alice in Wonderland's one of my favorite themes to do for any kind of event, because you can just have so much fun with it. There's no rules, there's no matchy. It's a mix of colors, and you can go any direction you want, and it's always beautiful, and guests always love it. So this has got the black and white checks, and then the floral teapots, and then the playing cards, but it still all works together.
I think at the end of the day, one of the things that we want to get across is that, when we talk about flowers and centerpieces, you don't feel like you have to conform to what has been done before. And I think one of the traps that clients get into is that they just went to somebody else's wedding, and wasn't it beautiful? And weren't those centerpieces amazing? And those flowers were extravagant. It's like, well, don't compare your wedding to their wedding. They're two totally separate events. And two totally separate themes and two totally different vibes. I mean,
because at that point you're battling with the Joneses right here.
Yes.
And that's taking the magic, to me, takes the magic out of the whole entire day.
It's 100%.
And everybody walks in then, if you tell everybody everything, everybody walks in, they expect to see what they're going to see. And there's no surprises. There's no real, oomph of like, oh, wow. There's no magic moment, so to speak.
Right.
Exactly. You should be able to walk in, and I have to say, like, no one says a word, and you walk in and you're wowed.
Right.
That's when you know you've done your job. You don't have to talk about it. Do what you do. And then when the people walk in, just like Marcy said, bam, done.
But again, I think that's about finding the right florist and the right designer. And, and I think that's another piece is that, and we'll obviously talk about it at a future show, is that there is actually a difference between a florist and a designer. And sometimes you need both. Sometimes you need to speak to a designer before you get to a florist that will help you. But, and
sometimes you got a really good idea in your head and you need a really good florist to make that marriage happen.
Right.
And
100%. And
we're
then,
very
of course,
lucky with Nichole because she's got both aspects.
Right. Oh.
Well, they do go kind of hand in hand with your overall look, but I'm not I'm not the one you're going to order a flower from for you to ship to your your friend who's sick in the hospital. We're more of kind of the special event florist, and I guess that's
however, if you did, let me tell you what that room would look like.
Well, I like this last slide that you put together. It's like use lighting as your centerpiece, and here you've got Edison bulbs all the way down the center of your table, suspended on a bar over the top with all beautiful greenery hanging down. I mean, talk about creating a vibe using lighting.
Right.
That's cool.
There are lots of ways that you can kind of incorporate lighting that doesn't require you to hang things from the ceiling. There are great metal stands out there that you can sit right on top of your table, so you can bring a look like this to life without being totally pain. I love having suspended candles. I like to suspend anything that I can actually, but you don't even really need florals. Something like this is such a striking visual that your table would not look empty if it didn't have any flowers on it.
True. I think that's true. I mean, oh my God. I mean, I feel like we covered a ton today. And I'm hoping that the people that are listening to the podcast could imagine some of the stuff that we're talking about. But I think that the overall idea is look at materials in a new way. You don't have to go by traditional and do
exactly.
you.
Yeah.
And if you are listening on the podcast, go check out the live so you actually can see, because there's been a lot of photos and displays thrown up on YouTube. So therefore, for the ones that are listening on the podcast, go to CLE Events and check out all the great work that Nichole has done.
It really is fantastic. And, so to wrap this up, because we're getting towards our after the veil segment, what are give me a couple of things that a client, a guest, or let's say a bride, some of the things that a bride should immediately consider as part of before they meet a florist. I know we started this conversation at the very beginning of the show, and I figured since we've had a bunch of conversations about a whole bunch of different things, that maybe some questions popped up that you go, okay, I'm meeting with a florist for the first time. What are some important things that I need to let the florist know? Budget.
Well, I would definitely budget. Yeah, budget is definitely where you want to be. Two, you probably shouldn't meet with a florist until you have your venue picked out, because that's going to be a big determination on, what you can and can't do. Three would be there are a lot of venues who will look to sell you their floral package when you sign on for their venues. A lot of venues who kind of like to do one-stop shopping. You may want to shop around a little bit before you want to. It's not always the best product or the best deal for you. It may be very cookie cutter and not what you want. So think about what's right for you. And then if you want to save money, and you're on a budget, probably having like a bridal party of like 20 can get a little cost prohibitive. Like sometimes I'll meet the bride and they'll have like a $1,500 budget, but they have like 15 bridesmaids. Your budget's not going to go very far. So that's something to consider as well. If your budget is smaller for florals, maybe just a few instead of 15, and let your friends get involved in another way.
Well, and I tell people the number one way to control your budget is invite less people. 100%.
Right, exactly.
If
same location budget.
Exactly. Exactly. If you have a $15,000 budget and you really want extravagant florals, reduce the number of people that are coming to your wedding and have 2 or 3, 30, 40 people with really over the top florals, or you can invite 150 with votive candles on the table. It's your choice.
Exactly. And that's okay. You know what? Votive candles on the table are okay. And
if it's done right.
Some brides are, want to be do-it-yourselfers. That's not something that I really recommend. I know, Keith, that's not something you really recommend, because the last thing
I made that mistake. Don't ever do it.
The last thing you want to be doing on your wedding day is running around putting together flowers and melting and so it's just not something that we recommend. But if you are do-it-yourselfer, hey, that's okay too.
Well, you say that. I'm going to say no, it's not, because no, I do not do it yourself. If anything, if you want it, if you're do-it-yourself kind of bride, great. Pull together all the materials. You have one that is your example, but hire the labor. Because you do not want to be that bride that is running around trying to put together your centerpieces, and then you got to do hair and makeup, and you're all sweaty, and then, oh my God, I didn't finish that last table. And
again, not do it yourself.
I was trying
to to look beautiful, but damn.
I'm like, don't be politically correct on this show, honey. I'm like, oh my God.
Since when?
we tell it like it is. And one of the things is that I love when a bride says, well, it's just a bunch of floating candles. I'm like, yes, but where's the water source? And how long does it take to fill up each of those? And then afterwards, how long does it take to take all of those and empty them out and pack them back up into the little containers? I mean, there's
so much.
There's
labor. Many resources, so much opportunities that may get missed if you do it yourself. There's just, you're not going to be happy in the end. So let somebody else handle it. You enjoy the day, and that's what it's really all about, is that you're enjoying the best day of your life.
Right.
100%. All right. So we got a quick
commercial.
A quick message from Zola.com, and we'll be right back.
I, Ava, wonder if our guests would be here on time.
If we had a custom wedding website.
With our ceremony details on it.
And I, Taylor, would pick Zola to have and to host our wedding website.
Ours even matched our Zola invites. The whole thing was so freaking easy.
Do you think Zola could have made planning your perfect wedding easier?
We do. I do.
We've helped 1 million couples plan their weddings with free websites, registry, and invitations. Get started for free at Zola.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to After the Veil. So this is where we get to talk about whatever we want, because it's our show and not yours.
And not yours.
I
stuck around this time.
So
Charlie for the party.
Well, and this is one of those moments that usually we ask our guests to brag on themselves a little bit. Something that's a recent project that you're really proud of, or something that's coming up, because I find that many times vendors are almost wary of saying, "Yay, good for me," pat on the back, So, like, Nichole, is there something that has happened recently, or that you're about to work on that you're really proud of, or really looking forward to?
Well, we built some new ceremony structures, and
I think she just slayed it. But.
I know. I was about to say, yeah. I love those ceremony structures.
Yeah. So, my partner and business partner is also my husband, Michael, and he's a builder, and he was a landscape architect for many years with his own business. So we have the fortunate aspect to our business that we can create people's visions and bring things to life. So if I find a picture or something that I really like to do, I'm lucky that I get to have someone who can build it for me. So he just built this new structure, and it's almost resembles, it's rustic, but it could be dressed up. Almost looks like a chapel in a way. It's 4 posts with pitched roofs and crossbars, so you can hang crystal chandeliers from it. You can dress it up with all kinds of florals and draping. It's really beautiful. We just premiered it for the first time at a wedding showcase, and the brides were really.
It gave me very updated Tudor vibes. I loved everything about the arch with the being so beautiful.
It feels like a little beautiful. And it could be used in a lot of
green chair, Nicole.
And it could be used in a lot of different ways. It could be used as a ceremony structure. It could also be used to put your sweetheart table in. But it can also be, what's nice about it is it can also be extended out with more pitches. So you could actually, like, say you were doing more of an intimate garden type event, a micro wedding, you could actually put your whole like dinner table underneath it and have chandeliers suspended outdoors, you know? So you don't have to worry about rigging or anything else. Super, you know, it's all kind of there and ready to go, and you can just, it's portable. So
I'm gonna go back to my point.
Super Gambino Mafia
Very
family,
cool.
Right?
Gig in jail.
I'm actually going to go back to my point. You know, if you're talking about your budget and you really want something over the top, invite less people. I'm just saying, you know.
Let me be brave yet controversial.
Oh, here we go.
Do not do it yourself. I'm telling you, don't do it. I'm a crafty bitch, and I got a lot of talent. Don't do it yourself.
Nope.
Hire Nicole. Hire Marcy. Hire Keith and hire me, because when I do walk down the last time, it's going to be correct.
Exactly. You know, and we can rhinestone the hell out of something if that's what you choose to do. I'm just saying.
Listen, back then I could turn a refrigerator box into Taj Mahal. Alone when you're the bride, honey. And you're flying your whole family down from it. It's not going to work.
Oh my God. Well, so one of the things I wanted to have a little fun at is that I just got the pictures back from NACE when we went to the National Association of Catering Events, where we won Innovator of the Year. Just saying, the show won Innovator of the Year. But the pictures of me realizing that I had won are classic. I'm not going to show them to you.
Well, that's what you get for putting people in events.
Is it one of the ones I took?
No, it was this was from the professional photos.
Fat girls from the down up. So that's what Keith gets for not putting behind the veil and submitting it through Keith Willard. So that
my God.
Marcy, I've never seen you look more beautiful except for like last weekend.
Oh my God.
Right now. So Keith, there you go.
It was stupid. Here we are on a tall stage. We've been in Vegas for a week.
240, not cute.
They're taking the picture from below. I know.
If you you go this way, honey, not good.
And I'm just like, couldn't you? And we didn't even get to take the damn award home with us.
Well, you tried. You did try.
I did try. I did try to steal that award and pack it away, but no, they came chasing
after me. That was the best moment of my life. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my God!
See that whole thing?
Well, the video.
All the money I lost in Vegas was worth it for that. In fact, I was flooring it out here because I'm 30 minutes away from my home to do the show in AC, and I was like, Keith, if you could have been me for those 3 minutes while I was watching you go collect the award. Marcia, you were there.
Yeah,
I was there, and you went running up to the stage, and you're waiting for him to come down. And I'm like,
Sidoni's like, go up there. I'm like, no, but I will watch. Video, but my favorite, the footage I have is like when you came down, the surprise on your face, the love in my heart, and the hug, the genuine. If you ever want to see two people love each other, watch that clip of me and Keith, because it just speaks volumes.
Yeah, well, and I think. Well, and it's one of the things about the show. I'm constantly surprised at how many people actually listen to us. I don't always understand why people are listening to us, but I'm always constantly surprised by it. And it's so random because, Marcy, it just happened to you recently. We were somewhere and somebody goes, oh, yeah, I listened to the show.
Oh, yes.
And we're like, what?
I know a lot of people that tell me that. I'm like, okay, good.
I got mine due in Vegas, and I watched Keith get pushed over twice because they wanted to meet me, and I'm like, wait a minute.
They totally pushed me aside. I was like, really?
We didn't talk about this. I'm gonna get serious for a moment. We didn't talk about this, but I am sure, like, we all went to different areas and different hotels and saw different things in Vegas. And I'm sure every time that anybody goes away, they look at things around them that they're surrounded by. And those are the things that get you inspired. I know, Nichole, one of your things you mentioned before was Alice in Wonderland. And there's a hotel out there, and you probably did see it, but there's a hotel out there that has a whole big Alice in Wonderland display. Like people can sit at and have like lunch or dinner at.
Oh,
the Cosmopolitan.
oh
Okay.
really?
I don't know if I've seen it.
Yeah, they have a like.
Cosmopolitan,
It's like,
Cosmo.
you know,
Oh, I wish
We had a drink. I lost a couple
I
$100.
should have taken
Yep.
pictures.
Oh my God, you totally should have
Gone down
taken
the
it.
rabbit hole, and you have a long table, and then you've got the chairs with the ears. It's just it just reminds, every time I see it, it just reminds me of you. I know that that's one of your favorites.
And it reminds you of what is possible, because
Exactly.
I mean
And you
the
get
chairs,
inspired.
the chairs with the ears on it were incredible. I mean, I didn't get to see it personally. I actually saw pictures of it, but still, that goes back to the decor piece. Well,
And I think too, like the whole what I took away from Vegas, minus the big huge decrease in my checking account, was this.
And a hangover. No.
I didn't drink that.
And
Yeah.
the long flight, and the long
Keith
flight
made sure
home.
that was taken care of.
The long flight home.
What it was
Yep.
is because we've been doing the show for a year and a half, and you kind of get complacent. You do. And
Yeah.
so it starts to be routine and that kind of thing. And I think for me, anyways, at least winning that award lit the fire back under me a little bit. Yeah,
it was a refresher,
and makes you push and keep going, but it also validates you to a certain extent, to where like this is what we were supposed to be doing the whole time. And so you kind of get your validation, and then it also is going to push you to be bigger and brighter and move forward and do bigger and better things. And to me, that's with this whole last year and a half, through all the BS and stuff we've gone through, it gives me, and I'm shining like a star. Shit.
She's like, she can't stop looking at herself. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen,
This is the worst probably hair makeup we have had on the show in a year and a half. That ain't it. But I raced for Nichole, I'm not gonna lie, because I could have canceled. I'm like, no.
No, but the thing is I think what I really love about the show is that we're honest and straightforward about this. It's a no BS show. We have a good time. We don't stick people in any corner. I try not to make it political, because it's not, because weddings are not political unless it's between you and your stepkids or whatever. But that's between y'all.
I'm being hired for that,
right?
So,
but I think, and I feel like that it gives a fresh perspective, and we're going to continue to do this as long as people continue to listen to us and continue to have live guests every week, which is, by the way, not easy. To have a brand new live guest every single week, and we've been doing it for 14 months straight.
You're making it be so easy and seamless, Keith Willard. I don't know how you do it.
Well, whatever. Well, and actually, we have some really incredible
Marcy as well. I know Marcy has a lot to do with guests as well.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to pull a couple of cards out.
Well, and actually, coming up, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the brand ambassador from Bottega Prosecco, the gold bottle that everybody knows. So the brand ambassador, actually, Carolyn Mariani, is going to be on the show, and we're going to be talking about wines and champagnes and that kind of world, because that's one thing that we haven't actually ever talked about is wine, champagnes, and the additional pieces that go into a wine. Into a wedding. Wine. Where's my brain?
Keith, I love that jacket on you, by the way.
I'm just saying, I wore a little floor jacket for everybody.
It's my favorite, and I thank you.
It's a very cool jacket.
Oh my God. Anyway, guys,
please tell them to wear that
I know,
all the
right?
time. Nothing below a tweet.
Oh, you're funny. All right, well, that makes our hour. So for Behind the Veil, thank you guys so much for being a part of it. Again, Nichole Sellars with CLE Event Rentals and Design. She is amazing. Thank you for being part of the show. Always, Marcy and Brooke. God bless y'all. Thank you for being part of this every single week.
What'd you do?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll be back next Tuesday at 2:00. We have actually Marley with Party Goddess that is going to be joining us. And then the following week, we've got Carolyn Mariani with the brand ambassador from Bottega Prosecco is going to be joining us. Anyway, so for now, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.